Hello, everybody. Do not adjust your calendar. This is early, and we are going to still have a briefing tomorrow as well. But we are doing a special edition, bulletin version of briefings this week because we had a lot to say about a new article that came out just yesterday from Google's threat intelligence group looking at Coruna, an iOS focused exploit kit that was used in a series of attacks throughout February 2025. So this is a exploit kit that has been used by multiple groups, initially by a commercial surveillance company, then repurposed by a Russian espionage group, and then more broadly deployed later by a Chinese threat actor group that was targeting cryptocurrency wallets. So I'm just going to open it up. I'm joined today by Jake Ouellette, Dallas Womack, and Mike Toole here. And let's go ahead and just jump in. So, Mike, you shared this article. I think you probably have the most to say. You're also the one who has to jump off first. So I'll start
Yeah,
with you.
this exploit kit's crazy. So one of the big reasons we're talking about it. This one, Google found it, did the normal disclosure, and then like immediately posted out with a blast radius to the media for everybody to dig in. And there's a lot that has come out in the last like day, honestly. Um, this thing looks like it was a nation state toolkit that was then like refactored to a surveillance company that was then like grabbed by a ton of random, financial threat actors and used by other nation states. There's like all sorts of crazy things in this exploit kit. It literally has mitigations for like almost every single iOS security tool on devices, all the way back to 13. It is a wild one, and it's out in the wild now, basically. Very reminiscent of NSA leaks of the old tools getting repurposed for crime, basically.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of like the first like flag that started going off in my head was like, man, this sounds a lot like Pegasus, the NSO group tool. That one obviously is like more geared towards like surveillance, and obviously like it's supposed to be like commercial surveillance, whatever that means. This is obviously something that's gotten into the hands of threat actors. And there's some things in the article too that said it looks like there's possible signs that an LLM was used to help generate some of the stuff. So it looks like maybe it was like a framework that was released, and the framework itself is being kind of passed around, sold between threat actors, and then they're doing whatever they want with it. We can see the Russian group seemed to be doing a little bit more espionage, like surveillance style stuff, and then once the Chinese threat actor group got a hold of it, they started doing like the more financially motivated. So it seems like it's just something that's being passed around, and will probably continue to be something that's just passed around as people, as these threat groups find new exploits. It's been proven that they can add and update this framework. So yeah, this is probably something that's going to have some long legs. And the first thing that came to my mind too about like in terms of like what I should be worried about, because I mean I use iOS, I use an iPhone as well, and like first thing I think of is like I want to make sure I'm protected, or even if like I'm managing a fleet of iOS devices, like I'm sure you are, Michael, Mike, just like what are really exposed. So it's like making sure that you're up to date, and then the first thing that came to my mind was like what models can't be updated, because it would be like I just got off of an iPhone 10, an iPhone X, and that's like on the list of like where that gets to that gray area of like they may provide a patch for it, but technically it's kind of like not supported, and then anything below that is definitely not going to get a patch. So like the as far as I could tell, the phones that could be okay and get updates is iPhone 11. Obviously, I want to make sure anything iPhone 11 is on its latest version or is on an unaffected version. But anything beneath that is definitely treading some like sketchy waters. You're just asking for trouble. So I'm glad I upgraded.
Yeah, that kind of goes to like the initial attack vector of this too, which is primarily watering hole attacks with iframes. So like, it's a zero click vulnerable. Like, it's real nasty.
Yeah, the exploit itself, that was one thing I noticed too, was like you can't really like like it's really just you go to a website and you're done for. Like it's not like anything like it's tough to even protect yourself against these kinds of things because it doesn't take much. It's like Mike said, it's a zero click. Like you don't have to it's it's literally called zero click because there's no effort on the victim's part to get infected by this stuff. So yeah, that is unfortunately makes it easier for the attackers.
Well, and I mean, I think that this was also interesting to talk about because we're looking at, I think, over 20 individual exploits, multiple full exploit chains, and a lot of tactics that, are not novel or unique to this campaign. One of the main things that immediately started to jump out to me as I was reading through, because it was pretty early in the article piece, is that they were selectively presenting these malicious pages based on the device that's being used, and that's something that we see pretty commonly for folks that are trying to reduce the likelihood of detection. They have a pretty good idea that more than likely an analyst is going to be sitting at a laptop or desktop, and so since they're targeting iOS devices, let's only present this if it's to a potentially vulnerable device. I know that there's more. I'm gonna scroll back through here, but that was one that stood out to me.
Yeah, it's also
Um,
got like Corellium, however you say that. The virtualized iOS like sandbox
mhm.
for testing. It can detect that like right off the bat, won't drop anything. This is a very like a nation state built this tool. Everyone's trying to figure out who, but
Yeah,
you can tell that some love and craft went into this thing.
absolutely.
Yeah, and this we see similar things with like actual like desktop or like endpoint malware as like analysis things. So like this is just one of those same ideas. One thing that stood out to me in the Google blog post was that if it detects lockdown mode, it bails, or
Hmm.
if it detects private browsing, it also bails out. So I thought those were interesting in terms of like a possible analysis like method or some kind of technique.
Yeah, I think that like reading through this article just made me think back to my like help desk days and the folks that are managing iOS devices across large scale sales teams, marketing teams, where they might be running some sort of like MDM software that doesn't allow um, quick, easy updating of iOS, like the operating systems on there, and just how vulnerable some of these groups are. And like workflows that teams are on are a little bit outdated, and we need to move towards something that's a little bit more streamlined and allows folks to manage the software across their organization in a more streamlined fashion. Because when we're stuck in the mud like this, a lot of people become sitting ducks. And as much as we want to keep people from using their company issued devices to not go to sketchy websites, anyone who's worked on a help desk knows that it's gonna happen. It's a matter of when, not a matter of if.
And I also saw like some questionable OPSEC based on what the threat intelligence groups was seeing. There was a one of the versions that they observed was a that was dropped was a debug version. So it kind of tells us that like it's that same what we were saying before of like something being passed around. It's probably being passed down to groups that don't know any better. They don't really have that OPSEC or they just don't care. So that's interesting. And that debug version included all exploits and internal code names were in the clear. So that's good news for us defenders of being able to get some of that information. And then things like the as far as when it got to like the what they were seeing in the Chinese based attacks was they were the payload was detecting QR codes on image on disk, and it was also doing things to look for specific keywords like backup phrase or bank account, to try and steal that financial information. It's very similar to like how info stealers work nowadays on like endpoints. If you happen to get hit by an info stealer, it does very similar, like kind of scans for specific strings and then uploads that to a Discord server or somewhere. These ones appear to be exporting to some kind of command and control. That was one of the first questions I had on my mind. I'm not super well versed in like iOS exploits or like how that world looks, but it's after looking at it, it's very similar to just how like endpoint malware is just like this exploit happens, and then the C2, the command and control connection happens, and then from there they can kind of just continue to monitor and continue to like do whatever they want on the device. If they want to just sit there for months and continue to scrape your data, that's something that they can certainly do. So definitely scary. Like just because you get popped doesn't mean it's gonna get popped and go away. It means they could potentially stay on there for a while.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I will say
What?
it's kind of notable, like the timeline on this, where Google's saying it goes back to it's like early 2025, where they can see it at least. My question is like, was it out before that and
Right.
looked different, right? Like, I don't know. It's this thing's definitely evolved a bunch of times. I'm a little nervous that it's older.
Yeah. I expect, I mean, we saw this article and wanted to share it immediately, but I expect it's a story that we're going to have reason to talk about for a good while to come yet.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be like we were saying in the beginning. It's just gonna be keep getting passed around. It's gonna get passed around from one group to another. Another group is gonna make an oopsie, and they're gonna expose the source code, and that source code is gonna get stolen and reused, and it's gonna be all over the place.
It's going to be messy for a bit. So we will keep the audience posted as we have more information on this. We will share the link to the full report. There's a lot more in there than we had time to go through in a few minutes. But we pulled together a group to talk about it on short notice. And so we will keep you appraised. In the meantime, if you've got the iOS device, double check if it's updated, make sure to update it. Don't just let your team know to update. Also, let your friends and family know. Odds are, if they're not part of a large organization, they may not know about this. I'd encourage that in general. And you'll be seeing us very soon again because tomorrow we'll have our next standard edition of briefings coming out. We hope you liked this. Let us know in the comments what you think if you'd like to see more of these rapid responses and what you expect to see further coming out of this story. That's it for us over here. Thanks, everybody. And until next time, stay safe out there.